All right, so you've got soft spots in your RV floor. Well, if it's a Thor product, Open Range, Highland Ridge, Jayco, lots of other manufacturers, possibly it may be the same reason we have soft spots in our floors, and it's not water damage. We've got some pretty soft areas in the high traffic areas in our floors over the last 7 to 8 years, and it's because of the type of floor systems that they put in our RV. It's a laminated system. We're going to talk about what it is, why it's a problem, and the only way that I've found to fix the issue or address it without burning the trailer to the ground, basically. If this sounds like you, stick around. We're going to talk about it. Try to fix a spot today here on Home on Edge. All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. So we've been having this issue starting a couple of years ago and getting a lot worse in our 2018 Open Range. So if you got like a Jayco, Thor product, Highland Ridge Open Range, a lot of other RV manufacturers use this kind of system in the floor, and some of them even use it for the roof. Like Winnebago makes their roof system out of this crap. And it is a laminated floor panel. What that means is basically it's the same as your laminated sidewalls. It's two very thin layers of Luan plywood with about 1 3/4 inches or 2 inches of high density styrofoam glued in between it. Now it makes for a very stiff panel right out of the get. So what they do, they got this trailer bare, frame out. They slap a giant panel of this stuff on there and build everything on top of it. Well, it does great. It's great for insulation factors. You don't have to put extra insulation underneath. But over time in the high traffic areas like the hallway or in and out of the bathroom or in front of the bed over there, you start to get soft spots in the floor that's not from water damage. Now what it's from is over time that styrofoam starts to compress a little bit and it loses its rigidity and it starts to disintegrate, and you end up with a little void in there, and sometimes you can even hear it squeak. In front of the door is one of our worst places, and we're going to try to fix that later, but I'm going to hold the camera down here and see if you can hear it squeak when I step on it. So it becomes an issue, and the bigger issue is there's no real great way to fix it. Well, there's a pretty decent way to fix it, I think, but as far as like normally with a plywood floor, you would cut that out and replace like the water damaged section of flooring. It doesn't really do you any good because all you're doing is cutting out a big styrofoam panel. Unless you've got another styrofoam panel to somehow put back in there, you're not doing yourself any good. So what's the fix? Well, it's not really that complicated. Just takes a little bit of time. Now the complicated part is going to be the linoleum on the floor. But what's the fix? Well, what we got to do is we're going to have to cut up a section of this linoleum floor. That's the only part I'm not really super sure about because I've been watching videos over the past couple of weeks. We're going to cut very carefully along the grout lines in this linoleum floor and cut out a patch of the area that I need to work in. What you do at that point is we're going to drill a series of holes in a grid pattern like 6 inches apart, and then we're going to fill up the void with epoxy. Now we're not drilling all the way through. We're going to be drilling through the top layer of wood and through the styrofoam. I've got my 1/2 inch drill bit. It's a brad point bit, and I've got it marked off so I don't go through the bottom. You don't want to go through the bottom because we're just trying to fill up the void with a deep pour epoxy. And basically we're going to fill up each one of those holes and all of that void with epoxy, let it cure, come back, sand down the excess, and try to get that floor down. And here's the before, so let's take a look at the before. All right, so what we're going to do basically is I've got nice long straight edge. We're going to cut along these grout lines, and I want to cut out a pattern. I've already looked and decided what tiles I'm going to cut out and what I'm not. And we're going to be using, from everything I could see on YouTube, everybody recommends that's doing vinyl floor to use a carpet knife because this has got a very sharp, very thin blade on it. So we want that cut to be as thin as it possibly can. Hopefully when we get done and we put this piece of linoleum back down, because these aren't glued down, if you didn't know that, manufacturers roll this sheet of linoleum, this sheet vinyl on the floor. They probably staple it around the edges and then they build everything on top of it. I didn't really know that until we did drill the holes for that test repair. And as soon as I drilled those holes, it just raised up. There's no glue underneath, so it won't be a problem to pick that patch up. Have that patch, do the repair. I've got this seam sealer right here by Target DT65. It's got a, I don't know if you'll be able to see the tip on that. It's a little T-shaped tip that goes down in between the seams. It's a 2-part seam sealer, and it's supposed to chemically like melt and bond the two seams back into a solid piece. So it worked on the YouTube. I've never used it before, so I don't know how this is going to turn out. I know the fix is going to work. I don't know how the floor is going to look. All right, so the cuts are done, and most of them look, you can't tell, but the floor is obviously stretched over the years, because I do have a little separation you can see right here, and right there's more evident. So I don't know when I get that put back down if I can find like a dark filler to put in there that'll make those seams look good. But like this is cut, it's really hard to see. I mean, it's cut down through there. It looks pretty good. I think if it goes back on looking as good as it looks right now, we'll be pretty happy with it for a while. So let's get that thing pulled out of here. Hold on. Tape up. All right, well, the piece is cut out. How about that? So this whole area right here is the area we are talking about. That's what we're going to focus on, basically from this line down and over here. Now it's time to kind of get busy. I'm going to draw out a grid of holes, space them about 6 inches apart, and get them drilled. Okay, so we got everything laid out, and I've got holes drilled. In vacuum, you're going to get a whole bunch. Be ready to vacuum stuff up, because you're going to get a whole lot of styrofoam fuzz and stuff that comes up when you drill. But as soon as you start drilling, where that floor is sunk down, and you can tell it's soft, and the styrofoam that comes out is just like loose packing material, the floor instantly just kind of raises back level, and you can see, I don't know if you can see down in that hole or not, but there's like voids where that styrofoam has disintegrated. Now if I step on this, you'll be able to see there's voids in there, because the air will push that styrofoam back up on there. So that's crazy. So we'll try to get as much of that out as we can, and then we're going to fill it up. So you want to make sure you're ready when you mix the epoxy up to kind of do your thing. If you've got anything else to do in that area, you need to move it out so you can, once you mix the epoxy and put it in there, you can't walk on it again until it cures. If you do, it'll just squish it out the holes and create a mess. Now the epoxy I'm using is a 2-part deep pour epoxy. I'll put a link to it, got it off of Amazon. The reason I chose this, it is for a deep pour, so that's important because we're putting a lot of it in there. And it has a pretty long working time. It's got a 3-hour working time at 70 degrees. That gives me plenty of time to take my time and fill these holes up slowly. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get ready to mix up this epoxy right here. Now I have no idea how much it's gonna take, but I've got this and I've got another one that's almost full like this. So I feel like that's hopefully going to be enough to do this. We're going to find out soon enough as it is. But if we use all this, I've got more that I can put in there. Oh, that's a good bit of epoxy. I'm not going to mix any more up right now. That is a good bit of epoxy. So what I'm going to try to do is basically get over this direction, start in that corner and work my way back here to a solid floor, because this doesn't affect that when I step on it. So I really need to kind of start out there, fill it up, and come back this way. I think I've never done this. I'm talking like I've done it before, but I did a small patch over there. But it's going to soak down in there. That's why I like to have the long work time. I really want it to fill all the crevices up. So this is what I'm going to be doing for the next little bit. That one's just taking it as fast as it'll go in there. Which I guess is good and bad. This could take a little while. Knee pads. Knee pads would be a good idea if you're doing this. You know, I guess I'm glad that I'm able to do this, but it's a shame that you have to, you know. So I believe we have got it to a point where everything is full, and it took a lot more than I thought it was going to take. I did have to mix up that second batch. I didn't use it all. I used about half of it. So what we've got now is all these holes are pretty much full to the bottom of the Luan plywood, and if I inject it over here, it'll kind of bubble up over there. So in that area over there where it was so soft, is full up to the plywood with epoxy, so I'm good with that. I'm gonna have to come back and when it's dry, first I'm gonna have to sand everything with a belt sander or a really rough grit oscillating sander, and then fill those holes in with some wood putty and let them dry and sand them down to get a smooth finish to put the floor back down. And just take your time, because it is a mess, man. It is a mess, and it just keeps going in there. It took a lot more in that area. That was the low spot than I thought it was going to. But I'm going to keep the air on, so the temperature in here is about 70 degrees, so it'll cure better. 75 maybe, and we're going to go. And I'm going to go home to the house, home base. And I'm going to come back here in about, let's see, in about 48 hours. I'm going to let that dry for a good 48 hours. And then I'm going to come back and sand it down, wood putty it, and get the floor back down. All right, so for me, it's going to be 48 hours. For you, it's going to be. And just like that, 48 hours later, we're just walked back into the RV. We're going to take a look at the floor. It is all dried, and I have to say that I'm pretty satisfied with the result. This area right here, which was the big problem area, is not anymore. It is solid as a rock. Feels no different here than it does over here in this area. So gotta say I'm pretty happy with that. Now I've got some 60 grit paper. We're gonna get down here, gonna sand this smooth. I wish that I had gotten 1/2-inch dowels to put in these holes while the epoxy was wet. And then I could have taken just an oscillating tool and cut them off level and sanded it down, and would have skipped a step. But I've got to fill those holes in with wood filler and let it dry and sand that back down as well. So, all right. So, no joke. Really, that only took about 20 minutes to sand that down using 60 grit paper. If you can find 40, every once in a while you can find that, but all Home Depot had was 60. I used 3 sheets in about 20-25 minutes. And this is almost as smooth as it can be. I've got to fill these holes up, and then I'll do the final sanding then. But yeah, that didn't take nearly as long as I thought it was going to take. All right, so I've got to say that I'm pretty happy with the overall result. You know, that patch is just laid in there. It's not, nothing has been glued or rolled or anything. I just put it back in place. Now, like when we started and I made the cuts, the floor was apparently had a little bit of stress on it, because these seams over here, they did separate a little bit when I cut them. You can kind of see the floor peeking through. It's got about a 1/16, maybe a little bit more gap. You can find something to put in there to color that brown. I've even got a furniture marker I think we could probably tape off and just color in there with a furniture marker the floor, and you would never ever know. So all right, so I think the seam sealer is going to work out pretty good. Make sure you got good ventilation because it does not smell great. I just used about half a bottle, and it's very expensive. I think I paid like $48 for this very small bottle. But hey, if it welds everything back together like it's supposed to, you can see probably better now. Sorry about all the background noise. It's got a little T-tip on the applicator, and that goes just in the seam, and you squeeze it in there. It's supposed to be semi-gloss. I let it sit for a while and just kind of wiped off the top because I didn't want it to show at all. But so far so good. It's good. I don't know how long it takes it to dry, but we're gonna leave it alone for a while. But let's go inside, and I'm pretty happy with it. You know, got the vent fans on in here because the fumes are horrendous. Let me take my shoes off. But I gotta tell you, it looks great. Like that right there. Oh, nope. This line. That is a cut seam that's repaired. Now you can see this because that's where it shrunk. But that seam is perfect. That seam is perfect. This whole seam right there was cut and out, and you cannot tell at all. Pretty proud of that. So we'll figure out what to do with those other ones. So yes, all in all, the epoxy, I don't know how long it's going to hold up. I think it'll probably hold up a while. Our test area over there in front of the bathroom is still holding up almost 2 years later. We'll keep you informed. We've got a lot more area to do. Now I know I can cut out a long strip in the hallway and fill that whole thing up and fill it up with epoxy and fix the floor where it's kind of soft there. And we've got a little spot in front of the bed in the bedroom. But so all in all, I'd have to say, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the way the repair went better. Actually ended up looking better in the end than I thought it was going to be when I got the floor back down. What I would do different, I would put dowel rods in the holes before the epoxy dried, so I could just cut those off and sand that smooth. As well, instead of gently like putting the epoxy in there like you saw me do in the video, later on I got to where basically just jam that syringe down there all the way and squirt it in there. It takes so much. It's going to take a lot more epoxy than you think. Just keep filling it up. When it starts to get full, you'll see it start bubbling up, coming out of the other holes around you because it's spreading out in there. Just like slam it in there, man. And you can take a scraper and kind of smooth it out if it overflows. It's really a lot easier to sand than I thought it was. Like I said, I had 60 grit paper. It took me 15-20 minutes maybe to sand it down smooth once it had dried. So when I do the other areas, I will be buying that same kind of epoxy, and I'll post a link to that in the description below, as well as a link to the syringes if you need to buy those. You can get all that off Amazon, so I'll be using the same exact stuff when we do the other parts of the floor. But I'm excited to know that it works because I was really worried about it. But that part of the floor is solid as a rock. How long will it hold up? Don't know. I think it'll hold up a good long time. So if you're having some soft spot issues in your floor from you know, this laminated floor system, just know that you can fix it. It takes just a little bit of work. It's not hard to do. It really is not hard to do. Just make sure you don't drill through the other side of your floor, because if you do, you poke a hole in the bottom of the floor panel and then it's all over. You can't fill it up. But other than that, it worked out well. So appreciate you guys watching. We love you all. Thanks again from the bottom of our heart. And that's going to do it for this one, guys. So until next time, take care of each other, love each other, and make every moment count. See you next time, guys.